Dead and thousands homeless following devastating floods in Tulsa, Oklahoma tonight. Torrential rains left much heavy thunderstorms and tornadoes are on the way. Tulsa Mayor Terry Young declared a state of emergency and warned residents to prepare to evacuate the city because of the additional rain building up just a short distance away. And Oklahoma Governor George Nye is asking President Reagan to declare Tulsa County a federal disaster area. State officials roughly estimated the damage at, and we quote here, many, many millions of dollars. We have more on the awesome impact of the floods in this report from Tulsa, Oklahoma tonight.
They're calling it the worst flooding in Tulsa's history. Beginning at sundown Saturday, nearly a foot of rain pounded the city of 500,000 residents, setting a new 24-hour record. The rain sent streams that feed the Arkansas River swelling over their banks, turning the city's streets into white water rapids. Rescue teams used life vests, ropes, and even canoes to make their way through the water. Dozens of people were stranded in their cars, and rescue boats were at work in several residential neighborhoods. Others were swept away by the running water. One woman was found clinging to a street sign until she could be reached by a man using a rope and float. The two were finally pulled to safety by several men on the other side of the street. Several hundred cars were stalled and abandoned across the city. Many more were washed off roads and bridges. Emergency services in the city were stretched to the limit by hundreds of calls. Firefighters were forced to stand by and watch as a blaze burned one building down. Fire trucks were unable to reach the blaze because high waters blocked the streets. Tulsa city officials report one mobile home park was left under nearly 6 feet of water. The city's mayor has declared a state of emergency, and the American Red Cross estimates that 2,000 homes have suffered water damage. At least 5 emergency shelters have been opened for those forced to flee. Jerry Krieg, CNN.
In Las Vegas, a bomb exploded today outside
to withstand the river's crest, which is expected to rise in the next 2 to 3 days. Here in California, it was days
after leapfrogging a good part of the field. Stock car racing has produced some extraordinary escapes. Maynard Troy amazingly survived this one to tell the tale. Again, he was wearing his seatbelts. What you are seeing here is perhaps the best example of how serious injury can be avoided, even though, as you will recognize, Gary Gray is being bounced about in the cockpit of his car in a severe manner. He was wearing a full harness belt system. But as this slow motion action shows, his body seems at times to be almost elastic. In the end, his crash helmet even came off. It's not only in accidents slit your belts, you need them on the road also. Where a dummy is unrestrained in a crash test, look what happens. On the other hand, where the dummy is wearing the seatbelt, you can see it never reaches the windshield or the dashboard, and therefore gets saved from serious injury and perhaps death.
Whoops, Jim. Gordon Johncock coming into the pits. Look out.
Look at that. Gordon Johncock.
Watch out for the... Oh, wow, how he missed everybody, I don't know.
Look at the guy behind him that he almost hit.
Yeah.
Gordy throwing his steering wheel out. I think he's okay. He's not seriously hurt. Yeah, he's
pointing to the front of the car. He may have his feet caught in there, you know.
All right, there he is, the right of your screen. It's amazing. I was talking about that groove. He was wide of the groove, Jim. He was right behind Sneva. Gordy, in the few laps before this, had been doing speeds at about 204 miles an hour.
Look what could have happened. Look at the end of that pit wall. If you hit that, you're finished.
Incredible.
And if his speed had been greater, he could have flipped over that wall.
This was fraught from moment to moment. Now he could have hurt somebody other than himself.
This is the closest we've seen to the kind of a pit crash that we've dreaded for years in Indianapolis. Had the speed...
Take to the
So he realized when he came to the plate in the second that he'd be the cause of an old-fashioned free-for-all. He tagged Mario Soto for a 3-run shot. Third base umpire Steve Ripley called it a home run. Soto and the Reds argued, though. Crew chief Bob Engel overturned the play, calling it foul. And the Cubs went crazy, being robbed of a 3-run homer. Manager Jim Fry had to be restrained as Ron Say just couldn't believe the hullabaloo. Words were exchanged. Mario Soto and Don Zimmer got into what became a bench-clearing brawl. Soto and Fry were ejected. The game was protested by both clubs, and play was resumed 32 minutes later. Tied at 3 in the 9th, Wayne Krenchecki then singled home Brad Golden to lift the Reds past Chicago in one of the strangest ball games this year. Chicago remains 1 game ahead in the East. After 3 yellow flags went down. The race was marred by this accident involving Patrick Bedard. His car slammed into the wall, shattered into tiny pieces. Bedard was listed in serious condition at a local hospital. After they cleaned up that mess, Mears continued his assault on the course.
Speedway was used as an aviation repair depot and landing field for military planes.
That is Roberto Guerrero, the rookie who's been running so well, but he's under control.
He didn't hit it, and he didn't stall it, Jim.
What a beautiful job.
He didn't stall it. These cars always stall when they spin. To avoid stalling.
Trains managed to remove the riders, but some were left dangling for more than 3 hours. The accident at the park, 6 Flags over Georgia, was caused, they say, by a computer malfunction. The first, when a car driven by Pat Bedard disintegrated. He was hurt seriously. He suffered a severe concussion and possible fractured jaw, but he is conscious and in stable condition. More than 60,000 people at Lakehurst, New Jersey were watching an air show today when a U.S. Navy skydiver jumped from a plane, but his parachute failed to open and he fell to a runway.
Dry branches falling from the tree. We came.
Jim Fry is also very angry, and Don Zimmer goes at it with the umps. Fry is being held back by his other members of the Cubs. Here comes Don Zimmer. Mario Soto is ejected. He tackles Zimmer. All heck breaks loose. Just sit back and watch it. I mean, boys will win. Come on, guys. Everybody get in on this, right? Went to a baseball game and a hockey game broke out. Fortunately, nobody was hurt. However, Mario Soto was ejected for Cincinnati, and Chicago Cubs lost their manager, Jim Fry. There's Soto. I'll give him 3 points for predicament. Top of the 4th, Dan Dreesen on 3rd with 2 outs. Brad Golden rips a pitch.
Super bantamweight title on the line, Jaime Garza in white. And he is defending against Enrique Sanchez. And we have 3rd round action right here, and Garza connects with an uppercut, and afterwards he talked about his defense.
At the end of the 2nd round, I hit him with a right hand, and I wobbled him. So I knew he couldn't take that good of a punch. So the 3rd round, my manager told me to cool it, to take it easy, to move more and set him up with something. So I set him up with a jab, and then I caught him with a right uppercut.
And indeed he did. The other championship fight on the card, WBC bantamweight champ Albert Davila against Enrique Sanchez in heavy, heavy rain. Now, before the rains came, Sanchez had dominated this fight. But after the rains, Davila in the gold, Sanchez in the white, it was Davila putting on the power, really, on the rain-soaked ring. Here he's pummeling Sanchez with a series of lefts and rights, and referee Carlos Padilla steps in to stop the fight. And Albert Davila retains his title, and afterwards talked about his victory.
The guy surprised me. He was, I get inside it, he overpowered me. You know, he got out first before I did. I was looking to get a shot, and before I knew it, he was banging, you know, with all his, you know, he was banging me a lot of shots. He hurt me in the first 2 rounds, and then it seemed like he was hitting me a lot, but he was missing all the shots, and he was starting to tire. And then I could see opening from about the fifth round on, I was starting to land body shots, and it started to take their toll on the guy.
Well, John McEnroe led the...
In cloudburst boxing, the suspense here is whether you'll be hit by a punch or by lightning. Here's an electrifying move. This child was struck by the spirit of Michael Jackson. In Phoenix, the gorilla said, "Monkey see, monkey do." To wrap it up on a wing and a prayer, you guessed it, the always exciting chicken flying contest. For these birds, the landing is no problem, but the takeoff is a pain in the egg.
To soak in, this one's soaking in already, and I'm very happy.
And your mom and dad are here. Where are they? They were right over here on the side. They've got to be thrilled.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I was just very thrilled for the team, especially because we've been down. Like I say, we had a little bit of a low year last year and a low year to begin with now. And we knew if we got competitive, we could get the job done, and the guys did it for me.
Well, will you go back to the Penske design now, or will you stay with the March for a while?
Well, we got to go home and discuss that.
Some areas of the city are now under at least 6 feet of water this evening, with Tulsa Mayor Terry Young warning residents to stay off the streets. Now, to guard against looters, the Oklahoma National Guard has been called up, too. In addition, Oklahoma's governor has asked President Reagan to declare the region a disaster area. Nicer weather here.
This ride to suddenly drop, dangling the small planes by their noses and tails. It took rescue workers over
at its end, and the instrument of surrender of the Japanese was signed on her deck.
Let us pray that peace be now restored to the world, and that God will preserve it always.
Like her companion battleship, the New Jersey, ready to go into action again. After all the modifications of the Missouri have been completed, she will be recommissioned.
That headed him off. Soto's antics cleared both benches, and the Cubs manager had to be yanked off the field, and that's the way it went. Both the Cubs and Reds decided to play the game under protest. Well, the Angels continued to struggle. Three of the Indianapolis 500 took the green flag when the race began at the old Brickyard. And on lap 58, near tragedy, as New Yorker Pat Bedard's car slammed into the inside wall and literally exploded. Bedard remained inside the car, which landed upside down. He was hospitalized in stable condition with a concussion and broken jaw. Then two-time Indy champ Cox caught the wall on lap 108 and spun into the pit area. John Cox suffered a broken left ankle, but he'll be back. Actor and veteran driver Paul Newman looked on as the race became a duel between defending champs Tom Sneva and Rick Mears. Sneva's car broke down, and Mears, the pride of Bakersfield, drove his yellow Cosworth to an easy win, taking the checkered flag with a record speed of over 160.
Caution and conservatism, even though it is the...
Trying to get to higher ground. 13 inches of rain fell in 6 hours, bringing creeks over their banks and into low-lying neighborhoods. The water has receded now, leaving behind $76 million in damage in the worst flood ever in Tulsa. Another 100...
Survivors of the flooding say the waters came without warning, dumping 13 inches of rain in 6 hours. An estimated 2,100 families have been left homeless. And though the waters have begun to recede...
He not only shattered Bob Feller's season strikeout record by fanning 382, but also became the first pitcher in history to hurl 4 no-hitters. In fact, number 4 was a perfect game against the Chicago Cubs September 9th. Willie Mays of the San Francisco Giants sets a record almost every time he steps to the plate. But it was something special in 1965 when he passed the 500 mark in homers. Only 4 others ever have accomplished that feat. Babe Ruth, Jimmy Fox, Mel Ott, and Ted Williams.
This promotional film is one way the French arms firm, Aerospatiale, sells its Exocet missile. And at $1 million each, they have made plenty of sales. The Exocet has sunk thousands of tons of shipping in the Falklands War and now in the Persian Gulf. And this is Aerospatiale's display at the Navy League Arms Show in Washington, D.C. Aerospatiale is one of a handful of foreign contractors. Every day, hundreds of additional weapons go into the Soviet arsenal. The Soviet war machine is outproducing the United States in conventional weapons 5-1. And the Soviets are pouring weapons into hotspots around the world, from Iraq to Central America. The Soviet Union refused repeated requests to provide a spokesman to talk about their arms sales. And the American buildup moves ahead. It includes the new multi-billion-dollar Trident submarines and their missiles. As the escalation of weapons continues, the Soviets ordered more missile-carrying submarines deployed off the coast of the United States, after the United States added to its arsenal of atomic weapons in Western Europe. Each side has tens of thousands of nuclear warheads atop missiles pointed at each.